It's the month of May and so much is happening. I'm Claudine Ewing.
And I'm Pete Gallivan. Welcome to Community. Well, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and that's where we begin tonight.
And that's why we have Carl Shellhorn with us. Carl, tell us, as a trainee helping individuals, this is a community that has experienced so many mental ups and downs, from 514 to other things that have happened. How do we help this community?
Well, Claudine, as you know, there's been a lot of trauma over the last several years, even generational trauma going back centuries, you could say. And I think one of the main things we do is to remember our resources. There are a lot of resources we have available, plus to know what to do to take care of yourself. So I always encourage people to seek help. We have a number of behavioral health agencies in the area that are willing to help. Also, to find your support system. Find people you can talk to and feel comfortable with.
You know, one of the biggest hurdles for a lot of people is identifying that they do need help and understanding that fact. What are some of the red flags, and you know, when you're evaluating yourself and trying to read your own mental well-being?
Sure. Well, speaking as someone who does have lived experience, I know when I'm not feeling like doing the things I typically would want to do, or my mood isn't great. I'm married, so my wife is a great barometer, but she'll tell if I'm irritable, or if I'm withdrawing from others, if I'm not as social as I used to be, or if anything that's just different than what's typical for me.
Do you find that after 514 happened 3 years ago, that people in certain communities that kind of shied away from getting mental help are getting it?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I think there's been a lot more awareness. Of course, one of our behavioral health providers, Best Self Behavioral Health, set up a clinic on Jefferson Avenue. And then also you have to consider that I think it's just more open and honest, even with COVID. When COVID happened, a lot of people realized that mental health is a significant issue. I mean, our mental health is as important as our physical health. And I think once people realize that, they realize that they need to get help when they have to.
Now, you had mentioned intergenerational trauma, and for centuries, the governor this week came to the Seneca Nation to finally issue a formal apology for the residential school program.
There's a lot of damage that's been done mentally and emotionally for folks over the years. The boarding schools, like you mentioned, things like that, created a horrific conditions for those youth that were involved that basically had to deal with these conditions that they never would have wanted. If you have a young person in your life, talk to them, listen. Also listen to what they have to say. I think listening is one of the most valuable tools we have with someone, and don't just brush it off like it's always just typical growing pains, so to speak. We have to be aware of what they're going through and know how to talk to them, but also how to respond in a way that's compassionate and non-judgmental.
The month of May, Mental Health Awareness Month, but this can be year-round.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I think every month and every day is Mental Health Awareness Month. I think for folks, we have to be aware of how we're feeling, how we're doing, and how to help someone that might need help. There's a lot of organizations in the area that do this kind of work. There's preventative programs. There's a program I teach called Mental Health First Aid, which helps people understand what to do when someone might be in a crisis and how to reach out. So we can all be better, we can all do better, and I think we're in an atmosphere now of learning more about our mental health and realizing how valuable it is to take care of ourselves.
Carl, thanks so much for joining us on Community, and we will make sure that those resources are available on our website for people.
Thanks, Claudine. Thanks, Pete.
All right, thank you. And the issue of mental health is big, in particular with our veterans and PTSD and getting the help that's needed. Right now we're going to focus on a mother who found that out all too tragically. His name was Josh Logan.
My son, he was just this beautiful, big-hearted boy, and that's what I always called him.
After graduating from Kenmore West High School, he decided to join the Navy.
My initial thought was, please don't do that.
And he excelled from the moment he arrived at Naval Station Great Lakes for boot camp.
He was in the Navy for 2.5 years. And went out on 3 different submarines.
Always looking out for others.
If you were his friend, he took care of you.
Karen's friend Lorene Bordenaro knows that. Josh went out with her daughter Aria when they were in high school and helped out around the house when Lorene's son was away in the Navy.
I trusted him, and he never let me down.
Karen and Lorene share a bond as Navy moms and also a knowledge of how mentally demanding life in the service can be, and the fact that there's an unwritten rule that you don't talk about your mental well-being.
It's either do I want my career or do I want to keep my head screwed on straight?
Yeah.
So you learn to keep your mouth shut. And
Josh called me about that.
yep,
He called me and I asked him to get help. There's got to be someone there you can talk to. And he said, but if I talk to somebody, they're going to kick me out.
A phone call that still echoes in her mind.
He did a really good job at hiding what he was feeling.
But when he was home on leave a year ago, it got so bad that he actually called his commanding officer and told him he was struggling. He was told to fly back to base and they would get him the help. But just after that, Josh disappeared.
In the meantime, I didn't know that people were already looking for him. His friends were looking for him because they were texting him and he wasn't answering, and then they noticed that he had taken himself off all of his social media.
His family, friends, and even police went out searching, but his parents finally found him in the garage, where on February 6, 2024, he took his own life.
we're not losing guys on the battlefield anymore. We're losing them to suicide.
To bring some light to the darkness and to raise awareness of that reality, last summer, Lorene organized the inaugural Joshua Logan Memorial Hockey Game, raising $5,000 for the Headstrong Project, a mental health counseling group that works with veterans and their families. The game was also a chance for everyone who loved Josh to come together and lean on each other for support.
That's what you leave behind, right? Is your kindness. That's what people talk about. That's what they remember, and those are the stories I hear about Josh.
And more stories will be shared and funds raised coming up on August 16th at the Paddock Ice Arena in Tonawanda for the second annual Josh Logan Memorial Hockey Game.
It was a long time ago, 1875 to 1957. For much of that time, the Thomas Indian School was owned and run by New York State. Located on the Cattaraugus territory, this is where children were stripped of their culture. Indigenous children couldn't speak their language. The violence and the death are documented.
Sanction ethnic cleansing is what was going here. Try to eradicate the long, proud story of the Senecas.
After the Seneca Nation president met with the governor earlier this year, the day has come.
Today, on behalf of the state of New York, I, Governor Kathy Hochul, apologize to the Seneca Nation of Indians and survivors and descendants from all nations who attended the Thomas Indian School.
The state recognizing the bad things that happened with a proclamation.
I want this forever enshrined, visible to the rest of the state, that this day occurred.
Bad memories, what I went through. I started out having my mouth washed out with soap, thrown in a cold shower for using our language. I was only 5 years old.
As for the apology,
I have so much mistrust. I've grown up not trusting the government, not trusting the non-Indians. And I have a lot of anger. I still have a lot of anger. It took away my life as a child.
My father was at the Thomas Indian School. It's, we're here on the Cattaraugus territory. My father was former president of the Seneca Nation. We're in a building that was dedicated in his honor back in 1985. And, and just as I said earlier, this is sacred ground that we're on. The atrocities that occurred here all those many years ago, and for the governor to come and apologize on behalf of the state for what happened here, I think offers the opportunity for us to continue that process of healing.
Native American heritage, history.
We fight for our traditions and our heritage, because these are all the things that have been affected over the last 500 years.
And now that the world has learned about the atrocities at boarding schools like the old Thomas Indian School on the Cattaraugus territory in western New York, the governor wants Indigenous nations' history, culture, and contributions taught.
We will acknowledge as a state the role we played. The path is not always easy moving forward, but it must include the collective movement to reclaim dignity.
We talk about education, about the state earmarking money to come to have effect here on territory in our language programs.
The state will rely heavily on engagement with indigenous nations to create the material.
The educational piece that Governor Hochul mentioned was a dedication as part of her 2025 State of the State commitments and policies, as well as the budget. And what that education piece is going to be geared toward is the development of educational materials for K through 12 learners across the state.
I reached out to the Buffalo Public School District, who used a Two on Your Side special on the Thomas Indian School for a history lesson. A spokesperson for the district tells me that Buffalo is already incorporating indigenous history into courses.
We have to educate not only the outside communities, but our people about what has occurred here on our territory.
Coming up next on Community, the battle of a lifetime.
Dakari Jackson's story is coming up.
I don't know what it is, but every time I come just in the parking lot, I feel like I can feel his spirit. Like it's never left yet. Like he's not at peace yet. Like something has to happen.
Just this day, it's kind of like feeling anxious, constantly looking around. Just even though all these places here, you're still like, okay, it can still happen.
Let me get in and get out.
Yeah, let me get in and get out.
What is it like for you? You don't live here, but you came back today for a reason.
It's love, honestly. Like, I love my father, so anything that has to do with him, I will be here standing 10 toes for him.
You know, I know one of the things people want to do is make this a day of remembrance. Mm-hmm. Not just a day of remembrance, but also a day of service. Here's Chelsea Swift with more on 514 Day of Service events.
Community members are honoring Kat Massey with a pocket park cleanup on Virginia Street, and by planting and cleaning the Mulberry Street Garden.
Buffalo is a community that comes together in times of crisis, in times of celebration of life.
Several volunteers say in addition to celebrating the lives of the 10 victims, these acts of service are about unifying the city.
I hope what it does is bring our community together in a way that it's not just a day, but that our community just always shows up for each other and gets to build relationships with each other.
People are finally coming to the East Side and dedicating time to our community. The East Side is a beautiful community and deserves love and attention just like the other communities. So I hope that after May 14th, we can continue doing this type of work because every community deserves this type of attention.
When my father passed, somebody said the man's legacy is determined by what their children do. And so as a community, as a city of good neighbors, this is a great opportunity for us to look out for one another, to take care of one another, to show random acts of kindness and doing acts of service, I think is the best way to reflect. And I anticipate in the years to come, this will be something that not just the city of Buffalo, but as a region that we do consistently.
Life may bring storms, but we can weather them with determination, courage, and faith. Because our history is filled with raging storms, but we continue to stand. Stand Jefferson Avenue. Stand Buffalo Strong. Thank you all, my friends, for standing with this community and reminding us again that love will always conquer hate.
I think so often with historical sculptures, we see people like stiff and we see them kind of rigid, and you lose the soul of who they were. That's not how Shirley was. You know, when she got up and spoke, she drew you in, she invited you, and I wanted the sculpture to have that as well. The second thing is her fashion. My girl, she loved a pattern. She loved to print. And I think that's really part of who a person is the way that they carry themselves, the way they convey their personality through that fashion. So I really wanted to implement that as well, and not just like have the clothing be an afterthought. So everything from the bold pattern to the pearls to just all those details, her wedding ring, I wanted that all to reflect who she was, both as an official but also as a person. The hair. she was a curly girl, and so we had to. We on the committee we kind of went back and forth about which era of Shirley hair to capture, and we said we got to go bigger, 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 and eventually we landed on the big, beautiful curls that she has. One of the biggest parts is the folding chair, and the quote that accompanies on the other side: that if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. I hope it inspires everybody, but especially Buffalonians, to maybe just embody a little bit of her audacious spirit.
Cancer gotta beat me. I don't gotta beat cancer.
Dakari Jackson Jr. is 17. 2 months into his senior year, he had a fever, wasn't eating, and tired.
By the time I got to the hospital, I was no longer able to walk.
He was diagnosed with acute B-cell leukemia.
I thought I was about to die. But, God had other plans. You know what I'm saying? My parents stuck by my side the whole time, so I had no other choice but to have faith.
Up until then, he was playing sports, doing what teens do, but life changed.
Well, I'm at home, sitting with my mom and my dad, taking treatments.
His fight is the family's fight.
My hardest point was telling my son when he asked me, is he gonna be okay? And I don't know, but I gotta say yes.
And as the saying goes, when it rains, it pours.
On top of him being diagnosed with cancer, 3 months in, I get a call from my boss.
His company was shutting down.
I've been at that job for 24 years. So now, not only do I got a son that's sick, I'm also dealing with being unemployed on top of having a autistic son at home.
A fundraiser was held at Dakari's school.
The medical bills are just coming in faster than they can pay them.
We just wanted to make sure everybody from the school, the community, came out and supported him and donated as much as they can.
Financially, it's hard. It's hard. It can actually deplete everything you have, but you can't put a price on a life.
His son's life is precious.
Just the year you pray for, but I got hopes of going to prom, got hopes of walking the stage for graduation if treatment's going well.
His father already had him measured for his tux.
Getting emotional talking about it, but
Dakari has 2 years of treatment.
The doctors are saying he's taking the treatment very well as he's doing better than normal. But she do credit him for constantly being, upbeat.
As a Bills fan, he's received support from Dawson Knox.
His wife has been great as well. He's been great. He's given us jerseys, signed jerseys, showed up at the hospital room, cheered us up when we were down.
And as his shirt says, brave battles, a journey with Dakari.
Keep your head up, stay motivated, and try not to revolve your life around it.
Coming up next, a Supreme Court homecoming.
And some blues right here in Buffalo.
Please join me in welcoming Chief Justice Roberts and Judge Villardo.
And then the fireside chat began with 2 men who have been friends for nearly 50 years.
The folks from Buffalo are very proud to say that you're a native son here. You spent the first 10 years of your life in Hamburg.
Right.
What do you remember about growing up in Buffalo?
It was cold. No, the memories were refreshed earlier this morning. I went back and visited my boyhood home, which was a lot smaller than I remember. It was near the fairgrounds, for those of you around here, and we would, I remember hearing the call to the post, the da-dun, da-dun, dun, 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 when they were, because they did racing there on the weekends, and we would set up lawn chairs in the driveway, because they had concerts too, and got the concert without having to pay for it, so.
Where'd you go to school?
St. Bernadette's.
Yeah.
The audience, mostly people from the local legal community, they got insight on the nation's highest court.
Well, I think people are interested in his view of the judiciary and the importance of the independence of the judiciary. That's a very critical issue during, as I said, during any time in our history. And also just to find out more about the Supreme Court and how it works and what some of his thoughts are, as well as what it's like being back in his hometown.
I think most judges would agree that judicial independence is crucial. Do you agree?
In our Constitution, judges and the judiciary is a co-equal branch of government, separate from the others, with the authority to interpret the Constitution as law and strike down, obviously, acts of Congress or acts of the president. And that innovation doesn't work if it's not, the judiciary is not independent. Its job is to obviously decide cases, but in the course of that, check the excesses of Congress or of the executive, and that does require a degree of independence.
On impeaching judges?
Impeachment is not how you register disagreement with decisions.
That's what you're for, right? That's what you're there for.
That's what we're there for.
And now there are more women on the court than ever. Has that changed the dynamic or the culture of the court in any way?
No, to be my honest answer, I don't think it has. I'm sure when Justice O'Connor came on as the first woman,
right,
it had all sorts of consequences and changes. And but now, to be honest, I don't think, in terms of the dynamic at conference or the discussions and all that, I just don't think it makes a difference. I wouldn't say that our conferences or our discussions are different because. I would say it's different because those particular individuals are there and they all come and bring different perspectives and all, but I don't think I would say it's different than because they're women.
And retirement.
I mean, you're too young now, but someday, would you?
No.
He's 70 years old.
If you recognize that you're a burden to the court rather than part of an assist to everybody, then, it'll be time to go.
If we're kind to other people, other people will be kind to us. So it is so important to be kind to other people.
Destiny Houston is New York's first ever kindest kid in America. She is also Miss Western New York teen.
You represent the best part of New York. You are our future. You are an example to all of these beautiful faces out here about what kindness means and how amazing it is.
Destiny is being recognized for her unwavering kindness to fellow students.
So it's important that we're talking to little kids about spreading kindness, because being kind and treating others kindly, it really impacts the mental well-being of small children.
Sometimes when you're young, kids like to play around and you don't understand the importance of being kind, but she's always been kind. I'm very proud of her for doing that.
Destiny is 16 years old.
Kindness means being kind to other people, even when nobody else is watching. Having integrity, being able to be there for other people when they need it, giving help, serving your community, just doing things that make you feel good as a person while being kind.
Like your father was before. Such a fighter. Like your father was before.
Nothing like the blues in Buffalo.
Yeah, and hopefully Mother Nature doesn't have us singing the blues weather-wise, because spring is sprung.
Right, and we know what happens in June, the music and all the food festivals. We'll see you next month on commUNITY.